Okay, so these are our objectives today. We're going to finish up yesterday's lesson, write some more equations with transformations, and then we're also going to graph absolute values. So let's go ahead and jump in. So I just want to review really quick what we learned yesterday, because you need to know that to do the jump in to what we left off on yesterday. So suppose I had this, right? F of x equals 2x minus 3. I'm not very creative. I keep using the same equation over and over again. Well, we talked about inside changes, and we talked about outside changes. I'll make them look a little the same, actually, but you can see that.
Almost started the one where it's inside and outside.
Yeah, that's what we're doing today. So here, notice the 5x plus 1 is completely inside the parentheses. Over here, my 5 and 1 are outside. So what we talked about was when it comes to the inside changes, the first thing you do is you rewrite your function, but with parentheses on the x's, right? And then we write it again with parentheses, but no x's. And what goes in its place is the 5x plus 1. And if you can, yeah, that's from yesterday. And if you can, simplify it. So in this case, I can. So I will. So we'll distribute, and I get 10x plus 2 minus 3. This is just review. Hopefully, you guys aren't looking at this and thinking, what the heck? Because that's what we learned yesterday. All right. Now, the other thing we learned yesterday was outside changes. Sure.
Wait, actually, yeah, you can do that in the call for me.
So what we learned about yesterday was I told you guys to start like this, just write your function when you have outside changes. Do you guys remember what I told you to do for this one? Brackets, right? So throw some brackets on this whole thing here. And then you're going to make the left side look like the top. But as you do, you have to match it on the right side. So what do I need on the left so it matches the top? I need a 5, but whatever you do to the left, you do to the right. And don't forget also, we need a what? A plus 1, but whatever you do to the left, do to the right. And once again, if you can simplify, then you should. Okay?
I'm not doing that. I'm sorry I went slow.
You're good. Just keep writing. This is just review. So that's outside changing. Now, while some people are catching up with the writing, I'll talk a little bit more. So in this case, this function, if we were looking at graphs, would have been shifted to the left, and it would have had a horizontal compression. And so this graph would now look like this. So if you were to graph those on Desmos, you would see those transformations had occurred. Over here, this one has been vertically stretched by 5 and shifted up 1. So if you were to graph this on Desmos and then graph this, they would look the same, only this one would be stretched and shifted up 1 from what this one is. Okay? So we're just finding the equation of the transformations that have occurred. Okay? So that was review. And what we're moving into here now is putting those things together, doing them both. Okay? Okay. All right. Let's start with something easy. So let's call this example 1. Let's start with this.
Is that from yesterday?
Yeah, I think we used that yesterday a little bit. So I have this absolute value function, right? And what's happening is I'm shifting it to the right. I'm vertically stretching it and shifting it up. But as I do all that to the graph, that changes the equation also. The equation changes with the graph. And so my goal here is I want to find what will that new equation look like. Okay. I want to ponder for a minute. So, you guys ready? Let's start by writing our function. Ready? Everybody write this with me. Good?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Oh.
I like holding. Yeah, the principal.
Thank you. You guys good?
Yep.
Remember how we put parentheses around the x? Okay. All right. And so what we put parentheses because we have stuff inside, right?
Yeah.
But what did we do when we had stuff outside?
You bring it down.
We had brackets, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to do a different color here so you guys don't get too horribly confused because these bars look like brackets already, but I'm going to do that now, okay?
Well,
You guys okay? I did parentheses and brackets.
We gotta do
Brackets
that?
on the outside, parentheses on the inside.
That's like,
Even if the bars were.
that's one of those, like, you know those dog things that when you open it, there's another dog?
Yep, you're right. You're right. That's a good analogy.
What are you talking
It's
about?
called Russian nesting dolls. Okay,
You know those dogs where you open
step 2.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, step 2. You're going to write it again, but with no x, okay? So here we go. G
You do it
of something equals, I'm going to use a different color for my brackets just so it doesn't look too horribly confusing.
right. It's red.
There. So step 2, write it again, but with no x's. So step 1 is to write brackets on the outside, parentheses on the x on the inside. Step 2, get rid of your x's. Step 3, I'm going to write it again, but really I would do step 2 and 3 together. So step 3 is to take this thing that we had in step 2, right? And start making it look the way we want it to.
So plug in the X.
So what's going to go in the parentheses?
X minus 1.
Yep. This goes, well, I don't like what I did there. Goes in the parentheses, just like before. And what about this? Now I want the outside to have what on it?
5.
Okay, so we want a 5 and a plus 4. And that's where you do it to one side, you do it to the other. Plus 4, plus 4.
What's our final answer?
Well, it's almost there.
And we simplify the end, right?
You want to simplify it. So here, we can't. I would not distribute the 5 in. You don't distribute into absolute value. Just take my word for it for now. Okay, so we can get rid of the brackets. We don't really need them. And then we have plus 4. That's it.
So basically,
So the 1 on the inside of the parentheses replaces the x's. The numbers on the outside go outside the brackets.
Oh, wait.
Now we'll do another one.
I get it.
So step 1,
I'll get the,
write it with parentheses and brackets. Step 2, take your x's out. Step 3, start putting your stuff in. The stuff in the parentheses goes inside the parentheses. The stuff outside goes outside the brackets. That's our answer. Yeah.
So when we're simplifying, we just remove the parentheses.
Yeah, so the parentheses are there in case you ever need to distribute, but we don't do that with absolute value, so you can leave it out. So short answer, with absolute value, you don't need the parentheses, but I just kind of like to stick to the same steps because it's confusing enough. All right, let's do another one. Ready?
Did you practice?
Huh? Not yet. Not yet. We'll get there. Let's do another one. Let's say we have h of x equals x squared. Okay, now you guys hopefully wrote down your notes because I'm going to call on you for the steps this time. You guys need to take notes. I have to publicly shame you.
Huh?
Nothing.
What do we have to find?
The meaning of life. That's not the meaning of life, Henry. That's called reproduction, dude. It doesn't explain why you're here. It explains how you're here. Yeah, it's a little different. All
Why
right.
am I here?
I don't know.
Just slow it
All right.
down.
So, ready?
You didn't give us something to find.
I want you guys. Oh, you're right. Let's do that. Let's do 2h of x minus 5 plus 4.
Where do you get those numbers from?
I'm making them up.
Oh, okay.
So there's the given. This is what I'm being asked to find. All right, I want you guys to do step 1. Go. We're back online. Okay, so I'm going to ask David. What do I put in here, David? I totally agree with you. Now, a lot of you guys were kind of concerned or forgot about that little 2. Like, Heidi, you asked, why does the 2 stay? And then I was looking at Annie's paper, and she'd gotten rid of it too. So there's a temptation for some reason to get rid of that 2. But remember, in step 2, what's the only thing you take out? Just the x. Everything else stays. So that 2 had no reason to go away. That's why. All right. Now I'm going to ask Gabby to tell me what else I need to do. Good. We want to multiply the 2 on both sides, right? And then we want to add the 4 on both sides. Now, after you do that, we can get rid of these brackets. I don't think it's necessary. You would be wrong if you kept them. But here's a prettier way to write the final answer. And we all like pretty. Yes. There it is again. That's more sexual harassment.
Wait, no, it's not.
Now I know why you want to sit back there. Creepy kid. You called me pretty, bro. That's not how you compliment a fellow man. Okay.
Yeah, that's the only reason why. Because remember when he asked you, he was like, I like compliments. And he was like, if you compliment me, then you get extra credit. That's probably why he's only doing it. That's why he's lying.
One more example. Yes. That's a good question. I did not distribute. So remember we didn't distribute last time either because I told you don't do that with absolute value. You can't distribute with a square either. Now I'm going to give you one that doesn't have absolute value. It doesn't have squares, so we will do math. As Hannah put it. All right. So one more example before I turn you guys loose on it. Okay.
That's illegal.
Here we go. J of x. Here's your given. How about 3x plus 1? There's our given function. I want you guys to find, how about 4j of 2x minus 3? Nah, let's go and do 2x minus 1.
Oh, I thought you were adding more.
That is more.
Oh, man.
Okay, so step. You guys can do all 3 steps. Do all 3 steps, and then I'm going to walk you through the simplifying. Go. Do all 3 steps.
It's turning red.
So step 1 was to write j of x again, but this time on the right side, you should have put parentheses on the x and brackets around the whole thing. Step 2, you were supposed to rewrite the whole thing, but this time without an x. Step 3, whatever was in the parentheses up here, that's what comes into these parentheses down here. Part of step 3 is to now do the outside numbers. What are my outside numbers? 4 and minus 3. But whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. Now in this case, we can actually simplify this, okay? So here we go. I'm going to start by distributing here. 6x minus 3 plus 1. Do you guys notice that the parentheses are gone now?
Yeah.
Once you distribute the
Wait,
number in
what?
front of the parentheses out, the parentheses are gone.
Oh.
Okay? Now I can also, let's do this. What's negative 3 and 1 make?
Hang on.
-2.
Now what do you think I'm going to do?
-3.
I have no idea what this
Distribute
is.
again.
4 by -2, which is 24x minus 8.
Good.
Yeah.
24x minus 8 minus 3. Now, notice after I distribute, what happened to my brackets? They're gone. The only reason those brackets are there is to cue us to distribute when possible. And what's negative 8 take away 3?
-8, 11.
Final answer.
Wait, what the? Okay.
So here's your steps. Distribute inside parentheses first, then distribute
I'm
brackets.
confused because I had no idea what you're doing. You barely even know. It's just.
Do you need what? Oh, can you just leave it like this? Oh, this? Yeah, so what this is they were asking me to find this, right? So you're saying this
Equals to that.
is that. So this is what they wanted, and this is what they got. So do you need that? And the answer, no. But I like that you're bringing that up, because yes, that's all the reason. I just don't keep writing, because you don't do anything with it. It just sits there. Okay. Okay, I want to do one more thing. I wanted to give you guys a student practice, but honestly, this stuff is as cool as it is. I really don't care about it a whole lot. The other thing I wanted to get today, I do want you guys to make sure you get. That's kind of important. So, and it's graphing absolute value equation. So we're gonna switch gears now to a new topic. You guys ready? Here we go. Barb. If we get time, we'll go back to practicing that some more. But I feel like we've invested a lot of time in it, and it's not really worth more time to me.
Hang on.
Because whenever I teach you guys, I think to myself, what's going to help you in your next class after this one? This is going to be more helpful to you than the other stuff. So I'm going to transition away from it. I know you guys could probably use a little bit more practice with it, but I want to move into something new. So go ahead and write this down. This is, we're same day. Yeah.
Wait, this is
Stand directly in front of the wall.
Wait.
Give me a sass, Carpenter. All right.
I'm not ready yet.
Now I know how to punish you. Okay. So here we go. This is what I want you guys to write. First of all, absolute value functions look like a V. Okay? This piece down here is known as the vertex. Okay? Now, what's the minus h do and the plus k? What do those do to your function? Right? Does that? Well, when you first graph an absolute value function, just a normal one that hasn't been moved around, it's always at 0, 0. So if we slide it over and up, that basically is going to end up being our vertex. So here's what I want you guys to write. I'm going to draw some arrows here, and I want you to put this. H, comma, K is our vertex. Now something that's a little bit strange here is that you guys remember, if it's a minus h, which way do you go? To the right, which means it actually comes out being a what? Positive. So what you have to remember here is that for the h, you're going to change the sign. So before you write your point, whatever that number is, you're going to make it a positive down here. Or if it was positive up here, you're going to make it a Negative. It wasn't like that for this number. You guys remember when it was plus k, that shifts it, which is a positive. So you do not do the opposite of the k. So you switch the sign of this number, not this one, put them together, and you have the vertex of your absolute value function. Okay? Don't worry, I'll do an example. I saw a crinkled eyebrow. We'll be good. This guy here, slope. Now that's your stretch, right? We talked about that. But isn't a slope a stretch? Right? So you can think of it as slope or stretch. Okay? Now here's what's different though about the slopes of an absolute value function. You guys remember with linear functions, it was over, right, up, right? Absolute value functions go left and right up. So you have your run going both ways and your rise on both sides. You go both ways. So you start at your vertex, and this makes sense. Follow my fingers. Ready? We're at the vertex, right? Run, rise. Wouldn't that give you a V shape? Makes sense. Now, if this number is, that's for a positive A. If this number is a negative A, guess what it does? It runs and drops.
That's what happens when you trip.
That's a good one. I like that, John. It's a terrible condition.
I can barely see it.
You want to come sit in the front? That's a good idea too, because then you can zoom up on it. So, you guys got all that good stuff?
No.
He was wondering why I went like this. Sometimes they get in there.
Ew.
Oh, like it's
Has that
never
happened to you
happened.
before?
Yeah.
Gross.
You guys ready? You guys ready?
Oh, you guys. Oh.
I have a question, Mr. Bailey.
Yeah.
Is our homework going to be on this
Both.
assignment? No. It's going to be like 1 to 8, like 4 for the. I don't understand.
We just learned.
I think we're on example 2, right? Okay. So write that down. I'll show you guys how to do this. So, what we just talked about in the last slide is that there's 3 numbers, and those 3 numbers tell you something. Okay? The 2 numbers here and here tell you the vertex. What do we do to this number first, though? To a positive 1. Do we change this one?
No.
No. So my vertex is going to be at 1, 3. This number is my slope.
Wait, I'm sorry. Why have we changed it from a negative to positive?
Why are we changing from budget?
Oh.
It's not because it's absolute value. It's because when you do transformations, negative means right, and right actually gives us a positive outcome.
Oh,
Okay.
how come the number's negative?
I don't have time to answer that.
Wait, that one was already a negative though.
Okay, so
We're all dumb.
let's go ahead and plot our vertex now. You guys ready? So start by doing your vertex over 1, up 3. So let's put a dot at 1, 3. Now I'm going to do my slope, but this time when I do my slope, I'm going to do over 1, right? But up 3, but both ways, left and right. So over 1, up 3, over 1, up 3, connect your dots. There's your absolute value graph.
Oh my goodness.
You don't have to say that after everything I do, Hannah.
I'm always confused.
I know, but you don't need to say it every time. It doesn't really help. But if you ask me a specific question, I might be able to answer it.
Wait, how many lines is that? Is that 5?
Yeah.
This is it again.
Huh?
This is it again.
Sure, so we plot our vertex, right? And then my slope is up 3 over 1, but you go both ways. So it's over 1 up 3 to the right and over 1 up 3 to the left.
Over 1?
Yep, sure run. Okay, guided practice. Ready?
Those don't look right.
Number 2, they should look like a V. Here we go, negative half absolute value of x minus, let's do, yeah, 1's good. Okay. Step 1, I want you guys to see if you can figure out what the vertex is. A little tricky because we're missing a number, but I'll see if you guys can figure it out. See if you can figure out the vertex. Yeah, nice job.
What?
What do you think, Raquel?
Oh, dang, it's a fraction, huh?
Okay. But remember, that's the one we changed the sign of, right? So I'm going to say positive 1. But what do you think about this number here, the one that we don't have over here? What do you think I'm going to put? Huh?
No.
Wait.
If it's not there, it's a 0. So that's okay if you know. That's not immediately obvious to everybody. So if they don't have a number there, it's 0. All right. Now, my slope is negative half. So what do I plot first, you guys? 1, 0. Now, I'm going to call on somebody to ask a question. Ready? Vanessa? How far am I going to run? That's not how far I'm going to run, but you're looking at the right number. How far am I going to go over? Over 2 and down 1. Why'd we go down? It's negative. So down 1, left and right 2. And we also need to go left, right? So over 2, down 1, over 2, down 1. There's your V shape. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Keep reminding me. It'll take some time. You guys good?
No.
And it's because it's on this card. I need to fix your card. All right. Is ready? Una otra vez, por favor. Ready? Yes, Mr. Bailey.
What? We don't sound like that.
Okay. I want you guys to fill in some missing numbers here for me. What are we missing? We're missing the A. What else are we missing?
And then
The H, the number here. So I want you guys to see if you could fill in the missing numbers here for me. We've done this before, I think,
No, we haven't.
with straight lines. See if you guys can figure out what those numbers would be since they're not there.
I don't know.
Take a guess. Take a guess. Take a guess. Take a minute. See if you can figure out what they would be. With what, dear? The last one? Yeah. So you put a dot at 1, 0. That's right there. Now what you're going to do is starting from that point, you're going to go right 2. Starting from that point, you're going to go over 2. Oh, so from this over 2. Oh, to this from here, 1, 2, and then so right 2, down. And you're also going to go left 2. Yeah. 2 spaces. So that's 1 space, 2 space. Yeah. So left 2 down. So you need to go that I don't count the lines. I count the spaces of the lines. So 0's on a 1. So it's like 2 spaces. And then there's some kind of space. Don't do that. Just right to down there. Right to, don't judge me, but I don't know. I haven't buttoned somebody's face. I thought that you were laughing.
Yes, I'm.
All right. So let's see if you guys got some guesses out there. Henry, what goes here?
I didn't look at the question. 1.
Yep. When you're missing your slope, it's a 1. Remember that from linear functions? When you're missing your slope, it's a 1.
Dang.
All right.
Okay, but the other one's 0.
Patrick, what's here?
0.
You're right. When you're missing your number there, it's a 0. So when you're missing a slope, it's a 1. But when you're missing the other 2, there's zeros. All right. So here we go. I want you guys to do your vertex. And see if you can graph the whole thing. I'll give you a few seconds. See if you can graph it from beginning to end there.
So you want to
Okay, so here we go. I'm going to ask you guys some questions. Kayla, what is my vertex?
It's
0, negative 5. So that would be, oh, negative 5.
You. Wow.
You can't change the sign of 0 because 0 doesn't have a sign. No, this guy never changes. That one's whatever it is, that's what it is.
Oh, snap.
All right, next. Natalie Carpenter, what's my slope? It's 1. So starting from here, I'm going to go over how far, Javier?
1.
Over 1 and then up 1, right? And then we also need to go left 1, up 1. There's your graph. Okay, that's absolute value functions. Pretty chill, not too snabby.